Yeah, what's good, everybody? Welcome to my one and only Greenbull guide, Aramaki, Ryokugyu, however you say it. Jesus, he has so many different names and epithets, whatever. Anyways, we're going to dive in and look at all the pros, the cons, the goods, the bads of the one and only Greenbull. I strongly recommend you reading and familiarizing yourself with the traits that he has as well as his skills, because I'm not going to go over those in this video. That being said, let's move on. I do want to mention that Bandai, if you take a look at the anime and manga, Bandai literally did the absolute least they could with this character, which is kind of disappointing, probably because they're going to save it for a V2 of him eventually later down the line. But I'm not going to sit here and complain the whole time. I think the unit is actually still kind of fun, but I am kind of disappointed that we didn't get the skills, his Gardens of Wrath or Gardens of Growth, whatever that skill is. That looks beautiful and would have been so fun to have in the game, and I think his role should have been Defender in the first place. But it is what it is. Without further ado, let's move forward. Alright, let's start out with your stat recommendations. How should you build him on your one and only Greenbull? I think in general, because he has a really high HP stat, he's up there, so I would go HP as well as attack, so you can kind of do a little bit of damage. Now, if you want to, because your healing is percent based on all of your traits, you could go full HP defense if you don't need to worry about killing them. You are able to take flags without having the enemy pushed off the flag, so if you want to, you could potentially just do that route, and you do have percentage damage on your skill 1, which takes 50% of their HP if they're hit. Although I do want to mention it is relatively easy to dodge, so don't expect that to hit very often unless the person's just not watching you or fighting someone else. So I'm probably going to go HP attack whenever I get him full level 100. I think it'll be nice. I like his basic attacks are really nice. They do have a long range to them, and your heal off knocking someone down for 20% is really nice as well. So I think that's going to be the route that I'm going to go to, and I want to actually do damage with my skill 2, so that'll drive me nuts. Otherwise, your skill 2 is kind of irrelevant if you go full HP defense build for the most part, besides just healing yourself and knocking them down. All right, now let's talk about the Greenbull pros. What makes him good? Why is he great? First off, I do want to mention he has so many sources of healing. He has healing when he knocks someone down. He has healing when he gets knocked back. And on top of that, he has healing when he caps a flag. I think this is one of the most healing type units, which kind of makes sense because it fits into his theme with his forest type devil fruit, because he is able to like suck life force from other things or just like water, whatever it is. I don't know. He just sucks people dry in the anime, so I think it's cool. It's my vibe. I love his devil fruit. And actually amazing. So that's his first thing. His fantastic heals. His second one is the ability. He's the very first bounty fest. Well, no, okay, that's a lie because Raid Usopp's actually able to. But he's an upcoming bounty fest that is able to take flags while the enemy's still on it. Usopp has to put people to sleep, whereas Ryokugyu just has to be above 70% HP. So there are different conditions for these instead of just like Big Mom can walk up whenever, however she feels. So that is a thing as well that you can do. So that is an option. I think that's one thing that makes him kind of crazy, and it's going to be disgusting in terms of just being a bounty fest. There are other EXs that can probably do what he does better, but it's nice overall. So other than that, he does have fair sources of damage reduction. He has damage increase while he's fighting, so he is a little bit of an attacker, and this is where I think building attack would come in clutch, because then you can kind of kill the enemy or defender and wipe that out, and you do increase damage to defenders as well, so keep that in mind on that skill too. Alright, next let's talk about the Greenbull cons. What makes you bad or not great? So, I mean, first things first is you do have your cooldown that is built into your kit on your skill 1, so you can't just jump and fly to a flag right away, which I think is a way of kind of balancing out the character. It makes it so he's not super OP, doesn't run over everyone, and is actually able to be played against, especially if he spawns at last minute and just flies straight to a flag. That would be kind of horrendous. Other than that, like, your cons that makes you bad is status effects. You're not immune to like any status effects, so people can just come up. Anti-heal is your biggest weakness because that's your main source of sustain and main source of being able to keep playing the game. So make sure you stay away from any anti-healers. Hybrid Kaido's actually a very big pain for you, which I kind of like how they fits into lore, and just because like Greenbull's probably terrified of Kaido IRL and whatnot, so that's actually a really cool feature. Any damage, like someone like Hybrid Yamato, watch out for that. That frostbite shield is kind of crazy, especially if you don't have damage built. You're going to be having troubles breaking that shield, so that'll be difficult for you as well. Other than that, just main status effects are your main cons. Cooldowns, your cooldowns actually come back relatively quickly, so don't worry too much about that. And you're not actually super tanky. You do have that revive going for you, so I meant to add that in the pros. So make sure you utilize and worry about that revive, which goes up to 50%. So it is kind of nice and works well for you. Alright, let's talk about the characters you counter. In general, I don't think Greenbull absolutely demolishes anyone in particular. He can walk over several defenders, I'm sure, but like even Gear 5 can still kind of hold him. Like he's not immune to shock. Greenbull's not immune to shock, so it's really not that hard to deal with. As a Gear 5, he just does do increased damage on that skill 2, but it's not like it goes one-shotting for the most part. It probably can in League Battle once you get that full like damage out there, but for now, we'll see. To be determined. Depends on the defense buff that they got and whatnot. So to be determined on that. I don't know. You're good against defenders. That's your main thing. It's kind of where your niche is. Just stay away from status effectors. All right, now let's talk about the characters that counter you. I'm gonna honestly put up number 1 is like probably Hybrid Kaido, because so many sources of anti-heal, and if you get anti-healed for like 45 seconds, it hurts. Trust me. So sitting around, walking around the matches with that will actually be so tilting, and you won't be able to do anything about it because you're just never gonna be able to sustain back up even after taking flags and whatnot. So if you can survive the 45 seconds. Good, great, but if you can't, you're just going to be withered down and it's going to be trouble for you. You don't have any like major dashes, so that part kind of sucks, so you won't be able to get away from people who are running you down and focusing you, so be careful with that until you get your skill 1 up, but that depends on where the enemy flag is, because remember, you fly to your closest flag of the enemy, so keep an eye out for that. Hopefully you can hit and do the damage to them, and that works out for you as well. Other major counters are just, so anti-healers, Frostbiters, probably someone like Prospero, who's not really played anymore, so you probably don't have to worry too much about him, and things like that. Anyone who does like major status effects are things to be careful of. People who do major damage is probably troublesome as well. I'm sure Filmred Shanks probably demolishes you if you try to fight him, but you are a runner, so just keep that in mind. You're not trying to straight up fight people, you're just trying to go take flags. So don't worry about fighting all too much, or just worry about fighting on a flag and trying to take that from them while they're doing that. He is great at taking flags, that's your main job. Worry about that and only that. Alright, as for medal recommendations for Greenbull, my first thing's probably just going to be, honestly, go for the Dressrosa Capture Speed, because that's going to be one of the best, and it's honestly probably one of the better runner sets that exists. It gives you so much cap speed, you get a little bit of damage increase while you're, like, the allies are not on the flag, and it actually gives you a lot of tags with it as well, so I strongly recommend that one as a possibility if you would like for Greenbull. It only gives you 14% on the skill 2, so there are better options in terms of straight tags out there, but this one's mainly capture speed oriented, so that one's up there for sure. If you would like, the Kaido set is always a phenomenal set. If you are able to get the Kaido set, I strongly recommend that set. It is so good. There's different event medals that go with it, and honestly, I can see us getting probably another version of Kaido and maybe some other event medals. We'll see. So there could be 2 more medals that come along the way, maybe, but most likely we should get at least 1 more Kaido medal sometime in the future. Other than that, if you really want, you could go Luffy set. That's a pretty generic. Luffy's are rather easier to get when you're summoning for him, so you could get some Luffy combos. Ideally, you could go Wano. Those ones aren't necessarily geared towards runners for the most part, but you could make it work. I think they're more defender-oriented. It's up to you. And sometimes they're kind of a little bit niche, so that's entirely up to you. If you want, you could go these Beast Pirate sets. There are so many different Beast Pirates and Beast Pirate event medals out there. I strongly recommend searching and looking through those. But there is that King medal, the Elif event medal, as well as the Jack medal that gives you some cooldown, gives you some extra heals when you're capping a flag, so even more heals. And then on top of that, you get a little bit of extra cap speed, and it gives you phenomenal tags as well that goes with each of those. And you get the extra 10% movement speed when you're spawning, which I don't know if that actually does stack with his passive. Not entirely sure with how that works, because he does have the extra movement speed when he spawns as well. So that might stack, that might not. I don't know. You might be zooming, he might just be going average. It'll just use whatever's the highest movement speed buff. So anyways, that is an option. I do really like that set. That actually is was originally meant for Kid Law, but I think it'll work well for Greenbull as well. So that's up to you. Whatever you guys are feeling. As for some free-to-play, like easier or newer player sets, you kind of have to work with whatever you have. I generally would gear towards going for the Beast Pirates because they have most combinations that you can work with. So definitely head towards those. If not, Baroque Works usually has some decent metal sets that you can kind of put together, depending on what units you have to work with at the very start. Or Luffy's. Luffy's are probably the most optimal. So I strongly recommend those 3 categories as a newer player if you don't have a lot to work with. So try and focus on those. You can get some good tags together. 3 different Luffy medals, remember, those work out well, and that'll be your best bet for you. So anyways, overall, that is my Greenbull guide. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of the unit overall. If you think Bandai should have just done his Gardens of Wrath skill in the first place, and I wish he transformed into that big broccoli head genius that he is. that is all I have. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Hopefully it was helpful. I'm Huss, and I'm going to be taking off. Yeah, peace, beautiful people.